So this year for myself has been relatively pretty quick, especially in comparison to the previous year, which felt like it was 3 combined into 1. Not happy. Because of this warped perception of time, 2022 is just around the corner, and with that comes a litany of many great things. Very happy. One that has been lingering in the back of my mind is none other than Jujutsu Kaisen and the future for it. Because there's a lot of great things that Kaisen has within 2022, especially starting at the end of the year, and with how the manga is being handled currently, with a lot of the story being very slow and mechanical and driving a lot of very valuable and important information forward to propel and prop up the Culling Games even further. We're in for a very great experience. One that is going to differ from the stuff that we have seen prior. All of it is a work in progress, systematically tackling one subject at a time, providing enough information which all fuels directly into the Culling Games. Good. Since we're very close to the official beginning of the Culling Games, it's honestly just around the corner, it could happen at any point now, and seemingly obtaining a lot of the information that was needed, what does 2022 look like for Jujutsu Kaisen in multiple facets? Not just its manga, but its anime, its movie, its potential rumors of games floating around. Well, let's take a look. I think it's safe to say that the Culling Games is a very exciting time for fans of Jujutsu Kaisen. And even though it feels like it's coming off the back of Shibuya, which was one of, if not its most climatic arc to date, the tone or the comparison between them is definitely going to be entirely different. Shibuya, in my opinion, is something that is perfectly handled. From its groundwork from the very first chapter all the way up to the start of Shibuya, there is so much valuable information that goes into providing very important knowledge to the Shibuya arc. Now, it's not as in your face or as flashy as a lot of other series, which is perfectly fine. Every series kind of handles these very massive arcs differently. But what's interesting about Shibuya in general is how it's not only linked to your perspective up until that point. So through different characters, you'll learn different pieces of information, some very important, some not all too much. But when you start getting into it, you'll notice that a lot of things are actually rather withheld. It's very specifically kind of calculated in a way. Side note, what I mean by this is Shibuya, in grand scheme of things, could be much bigger than it was actually portrayed to be. It is still a very incredible arc and it has a lot of finesse on it, but if this was placed anywhere else within the story much later on, it would most likely be a lot more cataclysmic, a lot more climatic, and very open to change a lot of different things. Now, this isn't to say that Shibuya is bad in any regard. Shibuya is purposefully done this way because there's only so much of a climatic jump that you can have in such a massive arc at the beginning of the story. This arc takes place very early. It's very rare to have something like this within the first 80 chapters of your story, so you have to make your connection to these characters going into this arc very prominent, and that's what those 80 chapters are building up on. Emotional bliss. The reason I bring this up is that the Culling Games does not have to go through the same approach or method that Shibuya did. This means that from power to fighting to emotional moments to the downtime between different climatic peaks to even the ending itself can be 10 times if not 100 times higher than what Shibuya ever was. Now, in terms of consequences, what the arc is doing and how much it's kind of recontextualized the entire story, it is already on a completely different level, and don't get me wrong, there was massive consequences for Shibuya, but it was articulated in that way. It was meant to give birth to a specific thing that would also directly link to the Culling Games. See, this is where the Culling Games is kind of like the next evolution of it. In terms of consequences, look at the battlefield. The battlefield is within the ruins of what Shibuya created, but on a much bigger scale, power-wise as well. Having sorcerers and curses and things come back from 1,000 years ago. People that are very interested in Sukuna. We have Kenjaku trying to transform or transcend into something absolutely unrealistic that we do not know what it is. A person that is above and beyond anything that we have ever seen. If that's successful, if that gets pulled off, which it most likely will to some degree, you then shift off into the finale of the story, but it changes everything. Not good. all of these innocent people being involved, all of these innocent people awakening very crazy and exotic abilities to some extent. Even on the main cast front, we're propping up their power so they can compete with this brand new elevation of arcs, to compete with these brand new people that are going to come in to face them. Maki is the perfect introduction example. Yuta is back in the picture, Hakari's in the picture, and you're seeing a lot of people grow very rapidly, very quickly. Megami on that front is very perceptive of the entire situation. He has a very beautiful knowledge and or estimation to how things work and how things could work if he puts them in motion, which is going to be extremely valuable in the grand scheme of things, trying to rewrite rules or jump around rules as best as possible. Not everyone's going to have that intelligence nor that approach, so it's going to be a very finely tuned balance between people that are just scrapping and fighting and showing off all this crazy power and people that are trying to mechanically break down the culling games and to bypass rules and to kind of bring more intelligence into these fighting moments. These can be intertwined, they can be spliced, they can be flipped upside down, whatever you want. But for me, the Culling Games is born or birthed out of the ashes that is Shibuya. Happy time. And this is normally how, at least in the manga department, how storytelling works. Your midway point or your next big arc should theoretically tower over your prior big arc. You don't want to have a massive arc that is kind of built up this way, that is birthed from your previous big arc, be nowhere near it in sheer scale or size or power or emotion or anything. Having those peaks not line up could be very detrimental, not good. So making sure it's very high and propped up there, very important. Which is why Akutami is taking a lot of time to get characters in a position prior to the game's actually beginning, supplying you information that you may not remember, but at least there is a place of connection that Akutami can jump back to, which doesn't feel false or fake or fickle. Side note, bombarding you with all of this exposition, all of this information during very climatic moments within the Culling Games definitely isn't the best place to do it. If you can offhand a massive portion of it with whatever is available prior to the arc actually beginning and supplying it to readers, that is a massive place that you can always correlate or jump back to within the Culling Games if needed. I guarantee Megami is going to do it multiple different times when it comes to the rules. He's already doing it now within the chapters prior to the Culling Games, just to reignite your memory, just to refresh it little by little, so you don't feel betrayed or lost with what's going on because that information has been supplied and you can kind of just move on with it. So knowing that this is going to take place most likely over the entirety of 2022 makes me really excited. This is a full potential 50 odd chapters, I would assume, of pure joy, of pure craziness, of pure blissfulness of manga storytelling. And while a lot of people are on the edge of their seats just kind of waiting for this to happen and maybe being a little bit too impatient, I can guarantee Akutami is going to pull it off. Shibuya was conceptually a much more difficult arc to pull off because it was so early within the story, and is the reason why I talked about it at the beginning. The Culling Games is different. If anything, Akutami has way more freedom to do what they want, to play on characters how they feel should be played upon, and to elevate things even further without it feeling scattered everywhere or overwhelming or clustered into so many different facets. Very happy. This alone I feel like is going to carry 2022 for a lot of people, most likely even bleed into 2023. But what else is there? Other than the Culling Games, what else can Jujutsu Kaisen provide for next year that is going to potentially take us even further? So the Culling Games may be the bread and butter of 2022, but do you want to know what kicks it off at the end of the year? The Jujutsu Kaisen movie. This is a very great time to be a Kaisen fan. Maybe you're just catching up, maybe you've been reading week to week since chapter 1. Regardless of where you are within the story or how long you've been with it, 2022 is a great year. And with the movie kind of kicking it off at the end of Christmas, it's such a great way to get everyone excited for what that year is going to bring. Good. Especially because that movie focuses on prequel material that maybe a lot of people haven't actually read, surrounding a character that is considered one of the most powerful within the story that is also very vital within the Culling Games. Interesting indeed. I wouldn't be surprised with leading up to the release of the movie, we start to see bits and pieces of Yuta a lot more. Maybe going through the Culling Games himself because he is kind of alone at the moment, or something in between, or something just related to him. It'd be a very smart way for Akutami to build up hype and excitement for the movie specifically, and vice versa. Side note, just imagine this. The movie is about to release. It releases, I believe, Christmas Eve. Prior to that, you're reading the manga and you see this very beautiful fight that Yuta has. Nothing overly serious, but just enough to show off a bit more of his abilities, a bit more of his power, his mental state, and how crazy that he can actually get. Not showcasing all of the cards, but just enough to get you excited. Now, you're already hyped at this point for Yuta, and you go to the movie and that's beautiful. It's an experience. I'm hoping it's going to be absolutely incredible, and I have faith that it will be. From there, you go from the movie back to the manga, and we're full-fledged starting the Culling Games. This is where we get things rolling. Just these two things alone make 2022 a great year for Jujutsu Kaisen, especially with how they're actually kind of lined up. But there's also a little bit more here. There is, I believe, games going around for Kaisen. I'm not too sure what platforms are going to be on or if there's going to be more revealed next year, but that's always a great thing. But also Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. I don't think we're going to get it next year, but I would be happy with maybe a teaser trailer. Maybe something to kind of acknowledge that, yes, it is being worked on. It's going to take some time, obviously, which take all the time they need for it. But I think that'd be a great way just to excite people, maybe towards the end half of 2022. That's more so wishful thinking, but there's a lot of great things for Kaisen to kind of take over 2022 with. The manga is only the beginning. I think the movie's going to be absolutely incredible, and then with potential games, maybe a season 2, maybe even other stuff on the horizon, art expeditions, etc. It's going to be a great year for it. A very powerful one, a very strong one. So I, for one, couldn't be more excited to see what it does. Endtime. So welcome to the end of the video. I apologize for not really being all too frequent with videos as of recently, to be entirely honest. It's been a little bit rough mentally, but I'm honestly trying my best to get back into the flow of things. I thought I would start off with some easier videos, trying to ease people in with this kind of new style of format with videos that are pretty normal. Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, maybe something else that people enjoy watching from here. So I do apologize for the lack of videos, and I hope I'm able to kind of get back into the swing of things. With that said, however, I would like to know what you're looking forward to for Jujutsu Kaisen 2022. You excited for the movie, the manga, the Culling Games, anything else that you may know about that I have completely left out? Please do let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Drink plenty of water, and I will see you within the next one. Goodbye.